When it comes to music producing, I think we all too often try to fit in with what's already popular or trending. We try to think, how can I make music to fit into a record label or a certain audience? How can I make music just like, and fill in the blank artist here? But I want to give you an alternate take on that, maybe a different perspective. Maybe instead of trying to fit in and make music like the best people, maybe you should try to be different. So it's late 2020, and I just picked up music production. Got my first copy of FL Studio, doing great, super confident. But I had zero experience, no musical background, but what I did have was a fascination with electronic and dubstep music, and a passion to learn. So, I'll make electronic music just like the rest of them do, I thought. Just like the rest of them, huh? I thought, I'll make melodic music like Teminite. I'll have insane sound design like Virtual Riot. Maybe I'll be unique or super big like Skrillex. I'll play shows and I mean, there's nothing wrong with dreaming big, right? Having big goals. But the journey of music producing was a lot different than I expected. I feel like our expectations when it comes to music production are a bit high in a way. I remember, in my experience, I would look at the way other people would produce or the songs they'd make, and I would think, wow, that's crazy that they came up with every little idea, that they created every little sound, that they programmed all these drums and all these percussions and all that. In a way, I thought that that's how music was, that everyone was making every single thing from the scratch. And if you know even a little bit about music production, that's not the case. That's not a problem either. We use loops, we use sample packs, we use presets, and most of all, a lot of the ideas we come up with aren't even according to our plan. You probably can relate to this. In our heads, we want to make music just like we think in our head. We want to have ideas that are just insane and then we put in the DAW. But a lot of the times, the best ideas almost come out of nowhere. Sometimes my best songs started just by scrolling Splice, finding a sample, and that's where the inspiration took me. Sometimes I'll place random notes in the piano roll, I'll hear a chord, and that's where an idea sparks. And sometimes even when I do have an idea, it'll go a completely different direction. That's kind of the process. A lot of happy accidents and intuition that you build over time that gets you to get those better ideas. When I started making music, I would come up with ideas and they were not great. It's still the same process. I mean, a lot of it was still happy accidents, and that hasn't changed today. But as you grow as a producer and as you have the years of experience, I think a lot of the times you start to build that intuition. But hey, none of those expectations are a bad thing. I still want to be able to be connected with my DAW in that way, where I can have an idea and just make it. Even if the ideas come from many different places, maybe not entirely just from my head in a way. Hopefully I'm getting my point across here. But I hear it a lot, and it's like people want to find their sound. How do I make my unique sound so someone will hear my music and know it's me? There's plenty of artists that have mastered this, but to find your unique sound, and of course I'm just theorizing here, I'm not the most experienced producer, but I don't think it's as attractive of an idea as you would like it to be. What we want to hear is, okay, sit down, what do you use, what do you like, what are your experiences, and now express it into the DAW. I think, like a lot of things, the answer is just experimenting over time, getting the experience of just putting the years in, putting the hours in. Maybe some ways to speed up that process, at least in my opinion, would be to go all over the place. Not to restrict yourself in one genre, not to restrict yourself to certain tricks, to certain plugins. Experiment. What do you like? What do you don't like? Find out what sticks and what doesn't, in your opinion, not to others. Another thing is the constant intake of other people's opinions, other people's music, and all that type of stuff. I mentioned this in other videos of mine, but the constant intake is gonna fog up your mind. It's gonna take up space in your mind where otherwise you would have your ideas. And of course, take inspiration from other artists that you love. But, and I'm guilty of this too, when you're taking in so much things, whether that's social media, whether that's just a bunch of music that's not your own maybe, it's easy to naturally adopt those ideas and those ways of producing, and it ends up making your music that you make in the DAW not come from you in a way. But in my view of these things, there's two phases: the intaking phase and the creating phase. The way I like to think of it is, when you're starting, you're gonna need to intake ideas, you're gonna need to learn how to produce, you're gonna need to figure out what's right, what's wrong, and just how to produce in general. And of course, along that line, you're gonna create your own type of music, you're gonna have your own ideas, maybe you're still gonna make things that have never been created before. And honestly, that's very likely. But on the other side, and I don't think it's a hard line between the two, there's the creating side, where now, okay, I know I shouldn't make this note there because it's gonna be off key, but maybe let's break the rules a little bit. Maybe let's do this because to my ear, in this context of this song, I kind of want to do this instead. Maybe it's very weird to put some snares in this position, but how about I'll do it because I want to. In order to properly break the rules, you need to know the rules properly first. Break some rules, do some things you would have never thought before, and take a mental note of what's good, what's not. What do you like? What do you feel was from you in a way, and what didn't? Now let me tell you something. I've been in it for 3 years. That's a long time, but it's also a very short amount of time. Most producers that are good, that are great, that are making it big, doing it for double-digit amount of years. Potentially, I wasn't even alive when they started, depending on the producer. But, you have to put in the years. You have to keep on going through it, making ideas, experimenting, failing. And then, eventually, you're going to slowly pick apart what fits, what you like, what you don't like. Hopefully, that's not some woo-woo vague stuff and doesn't really make sense. But in a way, that's what's worked for me. But I hope that helps. Experiment, be different. Hope you enjoyed. Hope this helped you. I'll see ya.